Hey guys, welcome back. We got Jefferson Rodgers here today, and it's kind of crazy because one of the first podcasts I did, I don't think done a couple before yours, it was like 3 years ago on yours.
Yep.
And so now here we are 3 years later, and we're jamming in my office. That's kind of cool.
Pretty slick, man.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you came. So episode 12, Jefferson, somebody that I've admired for a long time. He's doing some big things. He's always been somebody that I feel like has got that switch turned on all the time. And just always trying to be better, just be the best version of yourself. But I feel like another thing about Jefferson that I really like is he's taking people along with him. Like it's a legacy that he's leaving where he's trying to help people become the best version of themselves as well. So excited to jam with you today. I was asking you a little bit before this podcast, and I guess I can share this, is what fires you up? And you're like 90% of what I do, although I love family, I love all these other things that are important, is business. Like that's what fires me up. And that's what we're probably going to jam on a little bit today.
We spend the majority of our lives focused on business and how to produce more income and how to become better leaders and communicators. At least I do.
Yeah.
And that's where I pour all my energy with books and podcasts and content and the people that I surround myself with. And that's the stuff that I love, just jamming on and adding value.
So I already kind of know a little bit of this answer, but for a lot of the listeners, I think this is valuable because I get this question a lot, and I'm sure you probably do too. What does your typical day look like from waking up to going to bed? Like, what do you fill it with?
It's changed a lot over the years. When I first got into business, I was changing a lot of my old destructive habits.
Yeah.
And I was still struggling getting out of bed early and writing my goals and reading and getting started out with something productive. And little by little, I just started introducing new habits, and the discipline got stronger till, you just kind of reach a point where it's a little bit stressful because there's not like one waking moment where I don't have something planned or on the calendar or something that's next.
Yeah.
So I think it's gotten to one of those points again where it's like, I need to taper this shit back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I got to make some time to be in my thoughts a little bit and to have a little bit of relaxation. And there's just so much that you got to have some harmony in your life.
Yeah.
So every morning I wake up and I do pretty much the same thing. I have a bowl of yogurt, and I have 4 raw eggs and a scoop of protein with about 6 ounces of water. And I take my vitamins, and then I go to the gym. And then I get home from the gym, and I cook 5 eggs, and I pack a little lunch with either some hamburger meat or some leftover steak from the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And I head to the office, and I'm usually on a phone call or a Zoom call by 8:30 or 9 with either marketing or sales or operations or some outside vendor. And it's, pretty close to that same exact thing every single day. So you don't have to think about it much. It's just like a routine. It's a discipline. It's a habit. I read Atomic Habits years ago.
Yeah.
And they talk about these things that just become automatic, and the things that you want to have become important in your life. You just start doing them on a regular basis, and you start slow and building up towards it to where they're just automatic.
Yeah.
So you can have a great start to your morning. You start out with some wins and all the fuel that you need for your body to be able to operate at a high level and have energy, and to get started doing productive things with reading or meetings or writing your goals to prep you for the rest of the day. And then I use a calendar. I never used to use a calendar when I first started in business, but over the last 2 years, I've started using a calendar where pretty much every 15 minutes of the day, I have something scheduled, either family or business, until I go to bed.
Yeah.
And I start over.
What time do you usually go to bed? What time do you usually wake up?
So I usually wake up around 5 and go into bed, trying to get more sleep these days because my doctor tells me that there's no amount of supplements you can take that can
You better than sleep.
supplement your sleep, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my health has started to suffer a little bit because of that. But I'm usually getting about 6 hours of sleep, trying to get in bed by 9:30 or 10.
That's cool. Oh, that's sweet. there's a couple of things I want to point out. So high protein, I think, is interesting because I've been thinking about high protein. There's something about protein that's like, it's like a thermogenic in a way, I guess, but so it helps you burn fat, but it also keeps you full longer. And I felt that when I've, over the last year, I've put a lot more protein into my diet. You feel the same way?
Yeah.
And I love that. And I know you've been like carnivore, and I lean towards that. I feel like because of that reason, I don't feel like I don't feel like the cravings for sugar and a bunch of crap is there as much.
Yeah. Once you get your gut cleaned up, the cravings go away.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I just thought I would point that out. The other thing that I thought was interesting about what you just said that I totally agree with, and I've been thinking about a lot lately, is there's this mindset, and I think it has its place. It's like a quiver. It's an arrow that's in your quiver that you need to know when to pull out, when to shoot it, and when to put it away and take out a different arrow. And the two different arrows that I'm talking about are when to just put your head down and go hard, and then when to dream and be a visionary. And I think there's a place for both.
You've got to make time for both.
You've got to, right? Because you can't be all visionary and all dreamer because you don't get anything done. And you've got to be able to just develop the habit of being able to know when to pull each one out. Because if all you do is just put your head down and you grind, you miss so many opportunities, so many different pivots and changes. You agree? I mean, you're shaking your head, yes. So
I've got, I haven't always been cognizant of the need for that. So for years, I did put my head down. I was so proud of being able to outwork everybody and work 18, 20-hour days and only need 4 hours of sleep. And I had a mentor one time. He was watching me and observing me. And he said something very subtly on a coaching call one time. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but he's like, dude, you can't out-hustle yourself to the next level. Like there's no amount of extra hustle, extra work, or sleeping less that's going to help you get to the next level. You got to start doing things smarter. You got to make room for these other important areas of your life. And you got to have this harmony so you can create and be a visionary and combine these things and become a better leader and attract good people in your business. Otherwise, you're going to stay right here at this level and you're going to be confused why you're working so damn hard, but nothing's happening.
Yeah. I love that. I've been thinking about that for several months now. And so I think it's cool that you brought that up, because if you're out of balance in anything in life because you're just head down and going hard for too long, you can't sustain it. Like it's impossible to sustain. And the body starts to like kind of get into overdrive. I felt like you go into overdrive and you start to like, oh my gosh, this is out of balance. So I got to like freak out over here and freak out over here. And so your anxiety goes up, your stress goes up, and all these different things that distract you from what you're really trying to hustle towards. It's eventually going to blow.
Oh, yeah.
But if you can have that harmony is a good word, I think you go farther.
Absolutely. And every time that I go to say the word balance, harmony comes out. Because there's also some significance to like balance. That. But I'm having a hard time still with understanding like how balance fits in.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it logically.
Yes.
Because I'm not balanced. Like there's always one area of my life that's completely out of balance. So harmony fits much better to me because there's going to be these seasons in life where you're going hard. Like you've just maybe done a bunch of reflection and you're feeling really creative. And now you've got all these ideas you need to execute on. And now you go hard in that direction.
Yeah.
And everything else for me falls out of balance because my personality, I'm just all in this direction or in this direction. It's never like both at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have to develop the ability to harmonize the rest of your life because there's all these other important things you still got to hold together.
Right.
While all your attention's focused over here.
Right. The first time I ever probably had that hit me was probably 6 months ago. And I know you said that you've been thinking about it a lot too, but I watched a couple of people that are in my circle, and I saw how my schedule was and how I was just like go all the time. And one of my friends that's in my circle was like, I think it was Wednesdays totally off. And I sit at the beach. It was in Hawaii. Sit at the beach and I take my journal out and I'll sit there for 2 hours and just write whatever comes to my mind. And he's making over $1 million a year easy. And I'm like, really? Like, how do you do that? And he's like, well, Mondays are for this, and Tuesdays are for this, and Wednesdays are for this, and Thursdays are for this. And it was like so simple. And I'm like, that just blew my mind that somebody could take a whole day to just sit and be with them and be one with them.
It's like we control our own schedules.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Well, everything started with a dream at some point.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Like J.K.R. Windows, eventually you had a dream at some point, like I could do that, and you envisioned it. But then you get into it and you get so busy as an entrepreneur that you don't dream anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's so counterproductive to like getting to where you want to go. And we don't do it enough. These dang phones distract us way too much.
That's for sure. Absolutely. And it's, it goes back to that harmony. Like you've got to have these things for you to get to the next level. You got to be creative. You got to be coming up with solutions. You got to make time for it. And if you're so busy in the weeds, and we've all heard this phrase, working on the business versus working in the business. And it applies to anything. If you're so freaking busy working in the business and putting your head down and just grinding and putting in the hours, you don't ever have this higher perspective of your business and the things that need to change and the solutions and the evolution and the things that can improve by working on the business.
Yeah.
And it applies to anything.
Amen. I had a question that came to my mind as you were saying that, and I want your honest opinion. I'm not leading you anywhere. You don't have to guess what's in my head. Yeah, you can be totally honest. I'm thinking about it, and I'm going, there's so many people out there that I see who, like, they want to build something, but they want to work really hard, build it, and then, okay, now it's passive, and I can step away. Mm-hmm. I see it over and over and over. Like, I want to build a 7, 8, 9, 10-figure business, whatever, and then just totally step away and have it be passive the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. But what I see happening a lot is that they go in, they hustle really hard, they start to back off, and then it crumbles. Yeah. Because the leader now is gone, and their team is missing their leader. You're in a position that's very, very, like, this is a good question for you, I feel like. What's your opinion of people trying to step back and work less and not be that leader and just like replace themselves with somebody else? What does that do to a business in your opinion, good or bad? Again, I'm not leading anywhere, but in your experience, because I feel like this is a great thing to ask you because you have so much experience in this field.
There's a ton of different scenarios and opinions of this and a lot of different ways that this is played out depending on the industry that you're in and how the business is built. In my industry, I see it all the time as well. People want to, they want to relax. They start making more money than they've ever made before. Yeah. And they let off the gas. Yeah. And then it's like they're somehow confused of why things aren't still happening when they let go of all the things that help them get the success in the beginning. Yeah. And there's so much work that's involved to get it to a place with your org chart, with your leadership that you put in place, with the expectations and SOPs. There's like all these phrases I didn't even know 2 years ago. Yeah. But when I start having these types of goals, because I have a goal like that, like I don't want to have to work 18-hour days the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to do it right now. And I've got the coaches and the mentors that have been through this themselves and experienced those things that they can help you avoid having to let your whole shit crumble and then have to rebuild it because you're on the right path and you got the right focus and the goals and the targets and the things that you got to put in place before you can let off the gas. Yeah. And it's like this thing that social media has created because, we've like this perception of the overnight success and people are all of a sudden making all this money and going on vacations. And there are some different examples out there where people can come into some money and they're smart with it and they can change their whole lifestyle. For me, I'm a blue collar guy. I'm in a construction world, home services. Mm-hmm. And for me to get to that point, to hit my goals, to have it as a, more of like a passive business and it's running by itself, there's a 5-year goal from now after already working in the business 5 years before that is even close to possible. And you just got to come to terms with the fact that, there's such a small, minute amount of businesses that can do it in less than a time frame like that, there's a book called Wishes Won't Bring You Riches by Napoleon Hill. And it's, if you, just because you wish something doesn't mean it can be reality. You gotta pay attention to the people that have done it before you. All the information's out there. The path has been walked before. You don't have to recreate anything. You just go and execute on whatever your version of that is, whether it's 4 or 5 or 6 years, so you can have something sustainable, and you've built a great culture and environment and executives in place that you can walk away. And I can't remember who it was that said, walk away for your business for 30 days. And I think it was Bill Gates. That'll give you a true representation of how strong your business is.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it right now.
Yeah.
And it's been 5 years. I mean, you got to be honest with yourself.
So the answer probably, what you're saying is it depends. It depends on door to door is hard. Like, it's hard to keep that up year over year.
Yeah. Especially
if you're working 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 all year long, months of the year, or all year long.
Our guys are all year.
It's a grind, for sure.
Yeah.
You get all that rejection. But no, I think that's a great answer. Is it totally depends. But you're probably right in the social media aspect where people think that it can come really, really quick. But it's interesting too. Like, so here's a story. I was in college. It was Dixie at the time. Now it's Utah Tech. I'm sitting in a group of supposed to be student leaders, and the dean gets up there, and man, I shouldn't have said that in case he hears this, but I love him, But I just remember this. Yeah, he's still there. Great guy. Great guy. I just remember there's this one thing that I didn't necessarily vibe with, and so I'll just share my honest opinion. He got up there and he said, "You got to climb the ladder, guys. Like, the problem with your generation right now is you feel like you can just go from like the peon or like the bottom to CEO like that. And you gotta go from level 1 to 2, and you want to get to 10. You can't skip rungs in the ladder. Like, you just gotta hit every single one. And you don't want to. The problem with your generation is you don't want to work 30 years in the industry. You don't want to work 40 years. You just want the money quick. Okay, I get that mentality.
It's an old school mentality.
I get it. I understand that it's an old school mentality, and that's what they were taught. Go to school, get your degree, go and just get your stripes or whatever. But man, like, you buy into that too much, and that's damning.
Yeah.
You can totally go and skip rungs on the ladder fast.
Sure can. I know I did.
You did fast. Like, what you were making what working for the other company, and then you started your company, and how much did you make your first year, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I think I made $75,000 in 2017. And then I made over $300,000 in 2018.
That most people don't do that. Yeah, most people don't do that. You skipped a lot of rungs, and people can.
You ever heard of the book called U Squared?
I haven't.
So it's a book that Bob Proctor recommends. It's a little short read. It's amazing. And it talks about this concept of quantum leaps in business.
That's a book as well, yeah.
Quantum leaps?
Yeah.
Maybe
But
it is. I haven't.
No, yeah, keep going.
But U Squared, it's a really simple read, and it just talks about these giant leaps that you can take because of a change in your belief system, your paradigms, just the confidence you can develop over a short period of time by realizing that you've been holding yourself back and all these limiting beliefs have been keeping you stuck in this area, like listening to somebody that's stuck at a dead-end job, whether they're the dean of a school,
right,
or they're your parents,
and it's everybody that's around them at the school.
Yeah,
they all feed off of it. Yeah, I agree. Validate it. Yeah,
and then you sit there and justify it in your head over and over and over until you get exposed to something else, and you can start to believe something different. If you can't believe it, it can't happen.
Right.
And I just started to believe that it was possible for me to reach this level much faster than having to follow this silly path that everybody told me that I had to follow. And I was watching these other guys that have done it. And what was the difference between them and me? It was just that they had believed a little quicker.
Yes.
They'd put in a little bit more work. And all they had that was separating us was a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
And all I got to do is just change the way I think and go gain that experience. And I know I can be every bit as good or better.
Yep. I've had the blessing of being able to be around a lot of professional athletes in my life and know a few. And also people that perform at crazy high levels in business. And there's always that one thing that they all have, and that's the belief in themselves. Every single time they're like, no, I can do it. I can do it. I know, and I have the belief that I can make this work.
And it's almost like whether they had a reason or not, they've got a chip on their shoulder because somebody questioned whether they could or not.
Yeah, there's a why.
That's the way it is for me.
Mm-hmm. What's your chip? Where does that come from? What is it?
It was, I had to create it.
Okay.
Because I've had such a supportive family and a supportive background, and everybody just supported me no matter how big of a dipshit I was, how many times I went to jail. There was such support there.
Yeah.
And nobody ever questioned my capabilities or the things that I was supposed to do with my life. They knew that I was meant for greatness.
Yeah.
And I just kept proving them wrong and proving them wrong.
Mm.
So it had to come to a point where, if you've ever watched the show about Michael Jordan, it was
The Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
So good.
You remember the part in there where he's talking about, or maybe it was the narrator, but they're like, we don't even know if this was true, but it was something that he would create in his mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Like just to fire him up and to get him moving. And he would go out there and he was pissed at the world during those moments when it was the most important.
Yeah.
To get him to perform at that level.
It was a guy on this Ginobili. I think it was the example that you used. He was so pissed that everybody was talking about Ginobili and how good Ginobili was. And then he just went out and I think he called it before the game. He's like, I'm not going to let him score more than this amount of points. I'm going to score this many on him. And he hit both.
So yeah, the reality is you don't always have to have this moment.
Yeah.
Or this one thing that helps you to draw on it. You can create it. Like just play tricks on your mind in a positive way.
Yeah, I like that.
And trick yourself into being fired up about something and having a chip on your shoulder. It doesn't have to come from anywhere, or have like a math teacher or, a cousin or something tell you that you were never going to amount to anything and you're just dumb and you were meant to be a blue collar. Yeah. I just had to create that for myself.
Yes. I think you operate in a different energy frequency. Like there's literally energy frequencies, right? Like there's a scale from zero to 1,000. And they're like on the bottom side is like anxiety, shame, guilt, like, way down at fear is somewhere down there, right? Most people operate, and it's like fear is like level 100. So most people in the world today operate somewhere around fear and courage. And so like, courage is like 200. So it's still fairly low, because what happens is like courage, we people who go to war, they test higher in courage because like they go from fear to courage because they could die, right? And they have some courage. Yeah. But in other things, like if you have courage and you get good at something, it's funny because the step right under courage is like pride. So then you bounce back and forth between pride and courage, and you stay in that cycle. Yeah. You stay in an energy cycle, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Right?
And so if we want to push it to where we're at 300, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 1,000, which they've shown like Buddha, Gandhi, Jesus, like they were operating like the high levels of like 700, 800, right? Like way up there. For most people, it's probably more accurate to be around 5, and that's really high. But we can feel this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And we attract now so many good things in our life, in business, in life, for our family and our fitness, whatever F's we want to say, by having that high frequency, right? And I know you're somebody that believes in masterminds because you've done a bunch. And so I want to ask you, and for our listeners today, like how important do you feel like it is to associate with people with that high energy, that frequency, or just being around people that maybe unlock certain thoughts in your brain?
I would say it's one of the most important things. And if you look at any of the success stories throughout history, they have some type of representation of that in their path. Whether it was, Napoleon Hill talks about his mastermind concept, and he had created it. It's not like he was a networker or had masterminds to go to. He created these masterminds and these personalities in his own head that he would converse with and he would write letters to and he would write books about. And it was, have you ever read Outwitting the Devil?
I love that book.
So yeah, that's essentially what that was he was masterminding with this
devil
character.
Entity,
whatever it was. I mean, it was so controversial back then that they couldn't even release that book until
the
2008.
Yeah.
And he was long dead and gone.
It was written in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Family then said he was crazy, and then he released it in 2008, you said?
2008.
Such a cool book. If you haven't read it, go read it. Yes, seriously.
Amazing book. But for me, the only reason that I was able to get out of where I was and the paradigms, the belief, the confidence that I had, I was stuck as you can be stuck with addiction and, just all these destructive behaviors. And then I joined a mastermind group, and it had weekly accountability. It had action items. We were writing our goals. We were reading similar books. We were getting together each week to talk about it. Completely changed my life. Never been exposed to anything like that before.
Yeah.
And I've been hooked on it ever since.
Yeah.
Because it was surrounded by all these people operating at a high level, a higher frequency.
Yeah.
They all believed in themselves. They were all at or above my level.
Yeah.
And we get comfortable in our little hometowns and hanging around with people that are at or below our level.
Yep.
And feeling good about ourselves because we're better than our cousin or our brother. And well, at least
we're the alpha in our group, but we're the bottom of somebody else's, right? And the next rung up.
So you really want to level up, start hanging out with people that are smarter than you, make more money than you, that have way more experience than you. I don't ever want to be the smartest person in a room.
Yeah.
I want to be the least experienced.
And sometimes you're going to be, sometimes you're just going to be, right? There's opportunities and times for that, but you don't want to be because that's not helping you grow too. Sometimes you need to give back.
Yeah.
And then I think you know that better than anybody. I'm preaching to the choir, but yeah. Let me ask you this. I get this question a lot, so I'm curious your answer on this, Jeff. So people ask me all the time, hey, but I don't have a business. I don't have anything that big. I feel weird going and talking to you, Jefferson, and just asking for advice or asking you to go to lunch. Or how do I rub shoulders with people like you?
Yeah.
What's your answer to them? Like, how do people get access to some of those groups when they're just starting out?
Yeah.
They don't have money.
I get that a lot too.
They don't have praise or whatever. Like, how do you do it?
But you know what? The people that become successful, they don't ever ask that question. So those people probably are doomed to mediocrity.
Huh. I love it. It's just blunt, straightforward.
If you've ever noticed, like all those people will talk a big game and they're very intellectual and they're thinking about all these things that they could do, but they don't ever do them.
They don't do them.
I never had to ask anybody. I just found a group to go be a part of. I called a guy and said, hey, can I come to one of your meetings? He's like, what for? I was like, I love your energy and, I've always respected you. I'd love to just come in and take notes and just watch what you do. He's like, okay. And the people that are going to do something special will do it against all odds, no matter what resources that they've been laid out in front of them.
So good.
They're going to go find it.
So good.
And if you find yourself asking those questions and you're so disappointed about the way your life's gone, quit asking questions and quit contemplating and trying to figure shit out and just go do something.
Yeah. I love that, dude. That's so true. That hits home. I can see that a lot. It's funny because I get that question a lot though.
Uh-huh.
I get that question a lot. And I think you're right. And it's blunt. It's kind of sad, but I think you're right. Unless they can change that soundtrack in their mind.
You can't, because I wasn't always as forward and blunt and confident and, accomplishing anything productive with my life. There had to be a switch. Mm-hmm. There was a change of perspective and belief. And, all of a sudden I wasn't going to tolerate any of this other shit in my life anymore. And I wanted to become a better person.
Yeah.
And then it was, I wasn't asking how to do it. I was just watching and executing and taking just massive action in the direction of these new goals that I had.
Yeah. I love that, dude. I think that's probably the first time I've ever heard somebody say it like that. And I think that's really good. I hope people pay attention to that. And then there is hope there. Like, you just need to change that soundtrack.
Yeah.
Just go do. But if that's all you're doing is you're asking questions like that, you're never going to do it.
Yeah. That should scare you.
Yeah.
Like, these little messages for the right person, it's going to scare you. Like, that's me. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I could be stuck here for the rest of my life, repeating the same patterns, these same beliefs in my head that, I need to get it all figured out before I ever go do anything. And if you don't change that, you will be stuck. You'll be having the same conversations with yourself 20 years from now, not having improved or made any progress or gained the ability to lead people or communicate or earn income at a higher level. And that's why 95% of people are the way that they are.
Yeah.
That's another thing that he mentioned in that book, Outwitting the Devil, is 95% of people are controlled by this concept
hypnotic rhythm, drifting,
just through the same repetition of bad habits and no discipline and no curiosity about what else is possible.
Yeah, no dreaming, thinking of any bigger outside of themselves, for sure. Same mundane.
Don't get caught in that. That's the scariest thing to me.
And we've talked about it, even in business, your head down. Like, that can be a rhythm. You know what I'm saying? I think that applies. So it's interesting because you can be performing at a high level, but still in a rhythm.
It's some of the hardest
hypnotic
people I know are dead broke.
Yeah.
and they just get in that rhythm of repeating the
Yes,
same patterns.
absolutely. Do we know so many in America, right? That are they're working way harder a lot of times than the guys making 10 million, but they won't break out of that rhythm. They won't take a risk. They won't take a chance. They won't do anything else. So that's interesting. The other thing, dude, that came to my mind, as we're talking about like how do you break into those circles, is it hit me when you were saying that, like, you can't fake hungry too. You can't fake it. Like you can pick up on it. So if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, like I want to learn from you. I want to like learn about business. I want to learn how to start and get going. I can feel whether they're serious or not. You can't fake it. I know when they're BSing. You know what I'm saying?
They're talkers.
There's like, yeah, maybe you just pick up on little things that they say or how they are, or even their fitness. Like they're a billboard. Like you can see, and you're picking up all these little things. You're like, you're not gonna do it. And you leave the meeting at the lunch or whatever, and you're like, yeah, they're not. No. And sure enough, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, they're like, yep, same spot,
But
same
what's
job.
cool is 5% of people will. There's still that 5% of people that you might get through.
Yeah.
So if there's 100 people in a room, you know that you're talking to those 5 people in there.
Yeah.
They're going to do something. All the rest of them are just there to, tell somebody that they went to a conference and that see, I went to a conference. But those 5% of people are going to be taking the notes and writing the action items, and they're going home to get started right away.
Mm-hmm.
And those other 95 could eventually turn into the 5%, and you planted a seed with them.
Maybe some period in their life, yeah.
But those are the 5% I'm always focused on. Because if you're focused on the other 95%, which you get caught up in that energy sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you just want and help everybody. Like, why can't you just take this and do something with it?
Yes.
And if
Here's
you
the
waste too much
roadmap.
energy there,
Yeah.
you're missing opportunities with the other 5%.
For sure. And it's not because you don't care. It's just because you know. And you've seen it a million times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the last piece on that, this is the third one, is your vibe attracts your tribe. I think, and we talked a little bit about energy already, but like if you're already vibing in the high frequency, even though you haven't done big things yet, that's the other thing is like you can't fake it. Like you'll feel that, right? And you'll find it's almost like it's just weird things happen where somebody like pops into your life. Like when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And it's like, holy crap, like how did that happen? Well, because you're operating at high frequency and you attracted that into your life. And so you just got to vibe at that high energy, like get up, get your workout in, like think big, read books, study, do those things that are going to help you vibe at that high frequency, and the teacher will come.
Yeah. And it's, not like a person all the time. There's all kinds of experiences, opportunities, and people that are going to come into your life. And if you're dialed in, if you're a person of integrity, you do what you say you're going to do, you're living at the highest core values, and you got your goals in front of you, you got these targets, you're working in that direction, you got some harmony in your life. I've got story after story of these miracles, like these absolute miracles that you cannot explain any other way that have happened to me in my life. Yeah, that are just amazing. Like you could write a whole book, and there are book series like The Chicken Soup for the Soul, that these things happen to people that are ready for them, that have positioned themselves well, that have a strong mindset and attitude, and they attract incredible things into their lives.
And I think sometimes part of it is miracles happen around you all the time too, but sometimes you just don't recognize them because you're not operating that frequency. Like I think they're there, but when you're operating that frequency, you see it,
it's just
you appreciate it.
It can go right over your head.
You can go right over your head, and then you don't get the takeaways that you should have got because you weren't prepared when they came.
That is so true, man.
Yeah.
So true.
I've felt that multiple times.
Yeah.
And you're in and out of it in a period of your life.
Also, like you can see people reacting to something that from the outside looking in is like, he just totally missed that.
Yeah. Holy smokes. For the opposite. Like they got
blind to it.
Yeah.
But then you're right. And then you see these miracles happen in people's lives. Like for whatever reason, he's got momentum. He's been doing the right things. And that does not happen without having those things aligned.
Yeah.
It's like lucking into an opportunity like that. Right place, right time, over here in a conversation, just happen to be there in that moment.
It's almost like their heart's touched in a way, and they like feel the emotion behind it that like pushes them to take action. Versus if you're not in tune with it, you don't get that gut feeling.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't lead you to go, it's not the catalyst that leads you to go act.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. If you don't have the momentum built up, the confidence, the belief, you're going to miss opportunities.
For sure.
because it's too scary. There's
Yeah.
too much uncertainty.
Yeah.
And there's too many what ifs in this. I don't know about that. And you also get yourself in a position financially. I see this happen a lot where you start to stretch yourself too much with your current situation that you can miss out on opportunities
Yeah.
that have a 10 times potential because you've gotten yourself into a tough place.
Yeah. Spend money on things that just don't matter.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And everybody has to learn at their own pace and in their own ways. And some people will be able to recognize it and make some adjustments, be able to be prepared for an opportunity next time. I know that I've had to go through that myself.
Yeah.
Some people don't get it though.
Dude. So
Tell them all you want.
here's another one. So here's another one we can jam on for a second here. For some people, putting themselves back against the wall. I have a buddy who is making some pretty decent, 7 figures. And he just bought and is closing, I think he just closed this week or is closing this week on a parade home up north, somewhere between 2 and 3 million. Beautiful home. And he's my age. He's like 30, 31, 32. And I was talking to him one time and he's like, for me, I know myself. And if I put my mortgage payment's $14,000 a month.
Here?
No, it's up north.
Oh,
His mortgage payment up there is going to be like $14,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whew, like people that I work with as a real estate agent are complaining over $3,000 a month. He's got $14,000 a month. Completely different than what you hear a lot of people say, like keep your expenses low and all this and that, right? And interest rates are pretty high right now. So a lot of that is interest. A lot, right? So you start looking at it and I go, I don't know if that would help or crush me, but he's like, I know from like over and over in my life, if I put my back against the wall, it actually pushes me to higher levels.
Okay. Yeah.
It pushes me, but he's like, I've experienced that and I know that. Now, it hasn't happened yet, so it's still an assumption in fairness, but he has a track record and I know him well enough where I would say it's probably going to happen. Like I would say he's proven to me as well that he's somebody that's going to go freaking make it.
Yeah.
Now, for somebody else, that would totally destroy them. They're going bankrupt. So how do you know, man? I mean, like,
you know what? Sometimes your suggestions, your opinions shape other people's lives. Like somebody may listen to that and think that applies to them and go buy themselves a brand new F-350 when they're on a Ford Ranger budget.
Yeah.
And realize that all it did is create a bunch of anxiety and it crushed their ability to go out and perform because they got too much hanging over their head.
Yeah.
But that same scenario could work for somebody else, just like your buddy, where it fires them up. And all of a sudden, they've got this goal, they've got these targets, they've got a new enthusiasm about the things.
It's like a why for them, yeah. There's an emotion attached.
Why.
Yeah.
So we all have these different little variations of the things that get us fired up.
Well, that's so true because I feel like every kid that I've had, I've had that why. Kids are expensive.
Yeah.
They're freaking expensive to have and then to keep. And every single kid, that's my why. Like when they're born, I'm like, all right, there's my overhead just got higher. Like I gotta go freaking win. Yeah. And me and my wife talk about this all the time. Is like she said it to me first, which is a great experience to have your wife say this. And she's like, I've noticed that every single kid you've raised your level in earning and as a dad, in your mental capacity and just being able to be better. Now I'm not trying to toot a horn. I'm trying to just talk to the subject and say like for me. That's my why. It's an expense on paper, right? For sure. But it's something that drives me and I think is important for me. Now, for somebody else, it may not be. Yeah. So I think it's
a lot of people that it's not.
Yeah.
Like they have no extra urgency to be a better person or an example to have patience for their children, but for the right person, because it's a driver for me too.
Yeah.
I met my wife and she had a 3-year-old son. And that leveled me up right there.
Sure.
Like I had to step up. I wanted to prove to her that I was worthy of being with her and being the father of her son.
Yeah.
When we had our first daughter, you holding your baby girl for the first time, I leveled up. Like for me, I had no other choice but to level up for this little human being that I wanted to be an example for and a strong father figure and to teach her all the things in the world that were going to help her grow up to be just an incredible freaking human being.
Yeah.
And same thing with my second daughter. And that was, I attribute so much of my success to my family and these influences and the expectations that I wanted to live up to for people. And for you it was financial. For me, it was just these little more touchy-feely type of things that I wanted to be an example for my dad and my brothers and my kids and my wife. And I just feed off of that. And it's, it is about business and leadership and communication, all those things that I want to level up in. But if you trace it back, there's always something that's going to get you fired up.
Yeah.
And get you to go out and do things you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah. And I remember as a kid, like thinking what I was going to do as a career, like and making money, I guess. I remember thinking like, I don't know what my wife, like I don't feel it yet. Like, it scared me. I was like, crap, like I got to come up with one like you said.
People deal with that.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
even periods of life, dude. Like,
where do you find it?
Yeah. Like I set goals like 6 years ago, like 5-year goals. And me and my wife we sat down and we've accomplished every single one that we sat down and chose to do. But then when you get to the end of the 5 years and you forgot to look forward, you're like, okay, now what? Now what fires me up?
Yeah.
And so, and I've talked to a lot of people about this and the high level people, and they feel the same way. It's like, we buy into this idea that like, you have to be crystal clear on your goal. Like in order to be successful, you have to be crystal clear, write your goals down and know exactly where to go. Bro, it's never
keeps people from doing anything.
It's never freaking crystal clear. And I think that's what I want to debunk is like, you have a vague vision, a feeling of how you want to feel probably if you do obtain something. And then you kind of go towards it, right? You act.
Yeah.
And then it becomes more clear.
Find a little glimmer of it and start tapping into it. And that's every successful person that they have something in them that gets them fired up. And most of them don't know exactly what it is. A lot of them will pretend that they do, and they're very articulate and they can talk about the things that fire them up.
Yeah.
But if you get down to a granular level, there's just all these little things that somebody that's successful has been able to tap into and feed off of to go put themselves through things that most people aren't willing to put themselves through.
Yep.
There's never just like one clearly defined thing. It's like, that was it. And that was when I knew, and everything went up from there.
No.
I don't know.
No. And I feel like, you still need to know your numbers. You need to know data. It's good to have like things that like help you understand where you're going. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day and they're asking me, hey, I want to start this business and I want to start coaching people in this specific field. And they're like, I don't know. Some people are charging like $300, but I think I'll just start out at $50. I'm like, why? I was like, you're going to live to the level of $50 an hour or whatever, $50 a session. So the value that you're going to provide is worth $50. So that's not going to help you level up either. You start charging $300, like I did the math and I think it was like 100 to get 500,000. It was like 139 clients. If you wanted to stick at $50, it was like 866 clients. I'm like, which one would help you with your time and your personal time and being able to spend time with your family? Like, oh, well, yeah, for sure. Like the one where you're making 300 per session, right? So you that plus it's like, know your value, know that you're worth it, and then just like go after it. I can't really remember how I was tying this into what we were just talking about, but it's like with her, I was trying to tell her like, just know your worth and know your data. I think is what tying it back in, like data. Know your data and know that like what you're shooting for and be okay with it. Like you can't be so blind to like, oh, $50, that sounds good, but you have no idea that that's gonna, if your goal is 500,000, which was her goal around there, it's like, well, that means you have to have 866 clients to get there.
Isn't that interesting?
You don't want that.
That's just like the normal way of doing business and starting a business in a little town like St. George, Utah. We've seen so many businesses come and go because of that same type of mentality. They have this wild hair and this great idea. They never consult anybody. They never run any numbers. I'm just going to go start an ice cream store or a soda pop store.
Wild to me.
And not know anything about it. And they come and go like the wind.
It doesn't, my brain doesn't wrap around that. I can't wrap around that. Like I have to know my numbers and like, hey, I gotta charge this much, whatever.
Well, for me, I just got lucky because I knew my numbers well enough to know that I could make this work. And from day one, I was profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to get started in business, you better dang well know if you're going to be profitable.
For sure.
And how long it's going to take you to be profitable and what your numbers are, what your competition's charging, so you can make the best use of your time. Like you don't want to put a bunch of time into something just to learn some lessons,
right?
And set yourself up for
you
failure.
Make money.
Find the people who've done it before. Learn the lessons. Ask the questions that have already been learned, so you can come out on top.
I had an uncle that told me that all the time, Jeff. He was like, "If you're gonna work, you might as well make money." So simple, But his point when I was a kid was like, if you're going to work an hourly job, don't take the $12 an hour. Go take the 20. Go find one for 20. If you're going to work, go make money. And that's small thinking, but it's the same thing with like running a business. Like, don't go after the $50 per client. Go after the $300. Yeah. If that's your goal.
There's this concept about do what you're passionate about.
Yeah. BS.
So
to me,
if you want to go do something that you're passionate about, first find something that you can make money doing, and then find something inside of that you can be passionate
about. Yep.
Because if you're just going to start a business because it's this hobby and you're passionate about it and you're going to absolutely love it, it's not going to take you very long to be hating that if you can't make money doing it, if you can't support yourself or your family. So for me, doing door-to-door was not something that I was passionate about.
No.
Man, it was hard for me.
Yeah.
I got my teeth kicked in. I was terrible at it.
Yep.
I'd been a pothead for years, and I never started conversations with people that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it was the furthest thing from comfort or familiarity for me.
Or passion.
Yeah. So when I got started there, it was just going through the motions. I got to do this. I'm committed. This is the way I'm going to make money. And if you're just money motivated, you're not going to put yourself through the kind of stuff you need to become successful.
Yeah.
And when I started being able to tap into the personal development aspect of it and helping people and like sharing the things that I had learned and affecting other people's lives and creating success stories, dude, I started finding something I could tap into and get fired up about.
For sure. But you had to go through the barrier to entry to get there.
I had to first find something that I could make money at. And I had to go through those motions. And then for me to justify continuing to put myself through all this agony and the rejection and hours and hours and hours of doing things that I did not like doing, it was like, how do I find a why inside of this?
Yeah.
How do I find something I can be passionate and fired up about so I can continue down this path?
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I think this is what the school system taught me that I think is so wrong. There's even commercials that they've done on this where it's like, you're going to be so like from this age to this age, you're just a kid and you get to play and do whatever. But like on average from I think like 18 to 70 years old, you're going to be working. So majority of your life, because average age for a male is like what, 75, 77, somewhere in there. Yeah. Females are like 5 years longer because we're stupid and they're not. And like that big, vast, area, like you're going to be working. So they earn money so you can retire or whatever. First of all, I think that's BS. I don't think you have to do that. I think there's shortcuts and things that you can do to not have to do that. But I also think that can be dangerous if you're not following a passion that fulfills you. But the second thing is that in that commercial that I saw that the school system put out, it was like, do something you're passionate about. It doesn't matter if it's art, not a lot of money there, usually. Music, not a lot of money there, usually. Some people can pull it off, but the masses usually can't, right? And it doesn't matter really whether you can make money at it, just be happy. Just be happy. Because majority of your life is going to be spent working, so you might as well find something that you're fired up about that makes you happy.
Yes.
And my reaction to that right away, and I was kind of already like grinding away at some of my businesses at the very beginning, I was like, that is such BS. Like, I don't care if I'm working on the oil rig, whereas I'm dirty, but if I'm making $1 million a year that I can stash away and put into something else that gets me out of that, I'm going to do it. I'm not passionate about that. I'm not passionate about knocking doors. You talk to a wrestler. I used to wrestle when I was like in middle school and like ninth grade too. Nobody really likes wrestling, but you do it because it's hard. It's discipline. It trains your mind. It's UVU. Like the same with all the other stuff so that you can go win in business. So I think it's such BS when you start to tell people, go do what you're passionate about.
And you got to be careful the things that we've been conditioned with, because we were taught all those things in school too.
Mm-hmm.
We were taught to be mediocre. Like that is what the school system was designed to do, was to create workers for factories.
Yeah.
It's proven, like there's books written about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's plain as day for everybody out there to see. And that's another example of the school system conditioning you with these fluffy little commercials to be mediocre.
Unless you get straight A's and you have a 4.0, and then, hey, well, maybe you're suited to be a doctor or a lawyer. Like you're really good at this. So let's go, and you're made to make more money than other people. What a joke.
Like the in the yearbook, they had like the most
likely to be successful.
Most likely to be successful. And there's like this really cool thing that I thought about recently, that if we could go back and interview the kids that knew me from elementary school, watch me go all the way through high school, what they thought about Jefferson Rodgers and if he would ever accomplish anything with his life. I was never on any of those lists. I was never considered to be like a top of my class or
you were wearing Hot Topic with your hat sideways and pants below your butt, right? That was it.
Loop earrings.
There you go.
And bleach blonde hair.
Yeah.
And smoked weed every day from the time I was 15 years old until I was in my 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all bullshit, dude.
Yeah,
like
dude,
none of those tests, no amount of college can ever like tap into somebody's desire and passion and belief that there's more for them.
Yeah.
And if, no matter where you're at, you've got this opportunity to change and flip things on your head, and you're just one thought, one decision away from completely changing the trajectory of your life and your family and your legacy.
Dude, I hope there's somebody, because I feel like if the right person heard what you just said, that could totally change their life. Just that one thing. Like, oh, hey, well, maybe I'm like Jeff. He did it. Like, you just gave somebody permission to go win.
That's how it happened for me. It was just, I was seeing these people that they were not special. Like, I'm not anything special.
Yeah.
I was a pothead. Like, if you asked anybody in the history of knowing me before I started doing smart things, I would have never been somebody that would have been set up for success.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, at the right moment in time, I saw somebody that was doing something special, and I said, why not me?
Yeah.
It completely changed my life.
I love it. Yeah, be careful what you put value in. Other people's opinions. Like that value, like there's some people where you should value their opinion, but there's others you got to call the BS. Just go get it.
Yeah. I think it's common with successful people to challenge their own thinking, challenge what other people are trying to impress upon them.
It's harder, don't you think? Because I've been talking about this with my wife, and I'll say this probably for the first time on camera. Like, I'm challenging everything that I learned as a kid, and the heart of it is religion. And that's hard.
Good for you.
That's hard. Nobody's taught to do that.
No.
I still go to church, Jeff. I still go to church.
Yeah.
I try to read my scriptures. I try to have a personal relationship with God. But it's hard to challenge every single thing that you were taught as a kid that you just wholeheartedly believed in. And because it feels like you're changing your identity a lot. I mean, religion is like so close. So that's been challenging. It's challenging for family, and I'm open about it to my family. I've been open about it. I'm like, hey, it's not like I'm leaving, or whatever. But at the same time, I'm challenging it.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna. This is how I look at it, Jeff. Is like, I'm gonna become a better person either way. Yeah. Whether I stay or go. And I know there probably could be somebody listening to this right now. I'm like, no, don't go. No, like they feel like they know the answer. That's not what it's about. It's about the challenge.
It is. Yeah, the religion doesn't define you. Whether you have the religion in your life or not, it doesn't change who you are as a person or the integrity that you have or your just natural, innate core values that you've had built in. If you're going to be a shitty person, I know a lot of shitty people that go to church. But what it's all about for me, because I was raised LDS.
Yeah.
I started.
We've talked about this a little bit.
From the time I was 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
I was just like, can't do it. But it didn't change who I was or my heart or my core values.
Right.
Or my care for people, my ability to love and be compassionate.
Right.
That didn't change. I'm still a very spiritual person. But I don't have to go to church. Yeah. And if, like there's all this pressure. We live in this small community, and it's not as bad as it used to be when I was a kid, but there's a lot of pressure. And I can hear that pressure in the way that you talk about it. Like, you want to just be true to yourself and be able to be free with your thoughts and your beliefs and the way that you are starting to see these things. And it's tough because there's a ton of pressure.
Yeah. Religions in general, I think this is the thing that caught my attention. We were watching the show on Netflix, and it was the Warren Jeff show, Keep Sweet.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Anyway, it's talking about how, it's just kind of going through, and now they're a break off from the LDS Church, or vice versa. I don't know who's the break off. I mean, that's debatable. Right? But they say that they're the original. We say regardless, they're sisters, I guess. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so it hits home because they're also just right over yonder in Colorado City.
Yeah.
They're not far from here, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
right? So watching the show and how he just totally manipulated these young girls, and he's at brothels, and he's going to Disneyland in normal clothes with all his favorite wives and their normal clothes, and he's caught on tape having sex with young girls in their temples and all these things, and how he could just manipulate all these people to give him money and do all these things. And that's an extreme, but it kind of like, wait a second. The people that are in the religion are so scared of leaving because what are they taught? If I leave, I'm not making it to heaven. That's huge. Oh, I want to be with my Heavenly Father. I don't want to miss out on my family. You're saying if I leave this church, I can't be with my family again? There's so much. And I'm like, I don't believe necessarily in a God that feels that way. Now, I'm not saying that the LDS church does or doesn't believe anything like that. I actually love a lot of things in the LDS church. But I'm starting to question some of these things that I've been taught. Like, wait. I'm kind of like stuck here because that you don't challenge this and always pay your tithing. So now I'm a source of income for them. And then like, if you leave, you're a bad person. Your life is just going to go downhill because you won't receive any blessings anymore. And like all these things, I'm like, well, how is that any different than Warren Jeffs?
And they just softened it up a little bit.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I have to really, really believe. In order for me to stay, I have to really believe that this is the one and only, like they say, true church on the whole face of the earth. Or else, why am I doing it? And that's probably going to burn some people's ears a little bit.
Pressure. Because
I'm still active. I have a temple recommend.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still going to church. I'm not preaching against the church in any way, shape, or form. There's a lot of, like I said, I think there's a lot of things in the church that I absolutely vibe with, but I'm challenging them.
Yeah.
And I think that's healthy.
You've got a lot of questions, and you should. Yeah, that's just a little bit of research that I've done to help validate my own beliefs. I was pretty biased when I was doing my research, but it just helped me validate the way that I felt. Like there's your feelings.
Yeah.
Then your like the answers to the challenges and the questions that you have about it. And the pressure for me, I was luckily at a young enough age where the pressure didn't control me. And, almost 90% of my family is all still very involved and very, all the things that you had just explained. They believe all of those things. And it's challenging for them. It's so like the people that love you the most, they've been taught all these ways to think about it. And if you leave the church and if you question it, and if there's the challenges going on, and they've got all their conditioned responses, and then there's also something
to pull you back in. Yeah, for sure.
And they're not quite sure how to respond to this. Like, we love this person. Like, you need to damn this person and tell them all the things that we've been conditioned to tell people that are challenging, right, because we love this person.
Yeah.
It is an interesting.
It is a weird dynamic.
Conundrum.
And it can actually pull people away from family and push. And it does the same thing in the polygamous community. They're not allowed to talk to anybody in the community after they leave, which is very, very controlling, right? Because then they'll pull people away from their religion. But it's so easy, and I hope people catch this, like, it's so easy to talk about another religion that's not yours that way. Be like, oh, well, yeah, because that's theirs.
Yeah.
But when it's really hard, it's really difficult to accept the fact that some of it could exist in yours. And to be okay with that and just like embrace it. Learn the truth behind it. What is actually going on? Because there is truth there. There is either it is the only true church on the face of the earth or it's not. Like it can't be somewhere in the middle. It can't be both. So there is truth somewhere in there. And if you don't question it, you're never going to find it. I just feel like I've seen way too many people. It's that hypnotic rhythm. They just go their whole life and they go, my grandpa used to say this, and I actually would preach this for a while. You know what, Eric, he's 92 when he said this to me. If I get up there and I realize that God tells me, hey, you know what, the LDS church wasn't the true church on the earth, he'd say, well, I feel like it made me a better person being in it than not part of it.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I go, okay, totally true.
Smart man.
Okay, like that's true. You're not putting a lot of pressure on yourself and you're just kind of living. But I just want to be a seeker of truth.
Yeah.
Too. Because when my life, this is the question, would my life look different if I knew the truth here? And I think the answer is yes. So seek it out.
Yeah. And it's your own truth too. So through your own meditation or prayer or reflection on the things that you have going on in your life, you can find a truth that you can feel good about. But if you pay attention to all these people that you know and you love and that are a part of that religion, there's all these little nuances in the way that they talk about it. They all question it.
Yeah.
They all know that there's a little something funny about there, and how much can I truly believe in this thing where there's all these questions and all these things that are kind of red flags.
It's more courageous to do that, in my opinion. It's harder. And usually the harder thing leads to better things. And I say this all the time, everything good is on the other side of pain. Everything good is on the other side of hard. And so that right there kind of pushes me like, yeah, no, this is the right thing to do. Like, question it.
Yeah.
And I'm not leaning one way or the other. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to be totally open.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's crazy. We went from like business to like religion. I don't know how we got there, but it's kind of fun.
This is something that you need to, unpack a little bit.
I guess so, man. Like this turned into like the Eric Gubler rant for a second, but maybe somebody needed to hear it. Who knows? And but it's a principle that we can apply in everything. You don't need to just keep it to revenge.
It all started with the thought of challenging your beliefs, challenge your paradigms,
that you
challenge the opinions of other people that maybe you even respect very highly. That if you read too much into stuff and you believe too much without questioning it, it could lead you down the wrong path.
Dude, my biggest idols when I was a kid probably made $70,000 a year, and I thought they were the most successful people in my circle. But now I would never take advice from any one of them. No, I don't mean that in a bad way, but they just don't know how to get to me to where I want to go. Mm-hmm. And that's true.
Yeah.
They don't.
That is an interesting dynamic too, because some of those people we love dearly. Yeah. And we want to spend time with them, and we want to make them feel special and loved, cared about. And you just got to do it in different ways than the ways that we used to when we were kids.
No question.
To our aunts and uncles and grandma and grandpas, and we took everything to heart, and they were such heroes to us. It just, over time, it changes.
Yeah. So good, dude. Like, I feel like I don't even know how long it's been. I mean, it's been, let's see, we've been going for a solid hour, but it does not feel like that long. We were just jamming. Like, sure, I didn't even know the cameras were rolling most of the time, honestly. You're just like glued.
Yeah, this feels good. It
was fun.
When I said in the beginning, we got to find something we can both jam on, we're both passionate about.
And I feel like we did that today.
That's how we do this.
Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, thanks again for coming over. You've become a great friend, and I look up to you a lot, and I know a lot of other people do. And so, I say this to a lot of people that I care about, like I want you to win and I want your family to win, because I love seeing people that are good people win. Mm-hmm. This world needs good people to win, especially in the current state.
And we need more leadership.
We need those people in those positions. Absolutely. And so I'm a fan. I'm a supporter of you and your family. I appreciate you coming on. So guys, thanks for tuning in. Where do they find you, man? Like if they want to follow you.
Yeah. I guess mostly on Instagram, Jefferson K. Rodgers. But I'm on all the platforms.
Yeah.
JKR Windows. You got to check out JKR Windows.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we didn't even talk much about JKR Windows, but
I brought some new swag today. We just got new hats. JKR Elite for our Elite program.
I love it, dude. Guys, if you feel like this was valuable to you, please share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. If you feel like there was something in here that hit home for you, let's get it out there.